Okay. Where you make the bracha on dates or shakes? Which one comes first? Yeah, but when you're choosing which one to say the bracha on, one of them has a preference. The dates would differ. And then the question would be if the dates are broken, and the figs are whole. And I don't know the answer.
The whole things would have precedence.
I don't know the answer. I'm not sure. I have to look that up. So they would test the. They wanted to see if someone was a Talmud Chacham. They put fruits on the table and see like how he makes his brachas. Okay. Where are we holding? Oh, we did right after we did the Mishnah already. Okay. So we'll start 13b at the Gemara Bayrava. We thank Hashem that we're able to learn every day. And the schus of our learning should have the Beis Hamikdash immediately. Okay, we learned in the Mishnah, if someone accepts on himself in Nazirus, two types of Nazirs. One of them has a stipulation attached. So the first case was easy. He says, I'm going to be a Nazir. Then he says, and I'll also be a Nazir when I have a son. So he doesn't have a son yet. So first he starts that first Nazirus, the regular one. And when he has a son, he does his own, let's say he has a son in the middle. So you don't stop the Nazirus. He's completing the Nazirus. And he's accepted that first anyway. When he has a son, he'll take another Nazirus, which means that he'll shave his head, bring the sacrifice, shave his head twice for the first one, and then for the second one. Let's say he did it the opposite. Let's say he accepted himself to be a Nazir when he has a son. And he says, and I'll also be a Nazir also, and I'll also be another Nazir. I'll be a Nazir again. So, and I'll also be a Nazir. Again, maybe it sounds like it has to be afterwards. So he doesn't have a son yet. So he starts doing the second Nazirus that he accepted first. He has a son in middle. He puts his Nazirus on pause, and he does the Nazirus that he accepted that he'll do after he has a son. And then he goes back and he completes his first Nazirus. Now, since there's not enough time to shave his head and then to complete the first Nazirus, that would be considered the amount of time that it takes for the hair to grow, which was 30 days. Since he doesn't have the whole thing was only 30 days. He already did 20 before he started. Then he has a son. So now he does 30. Then he has to complete the last 10, let's say. So there's no time over there to grow the hair. 10 days is not enough. So you don't do any hair cutting until the end. It's only one hair cutting at the end. Bayrava. This is where the Gemara starts. Bayrava. Rav has a question. Amar Reini Nazar Lacher Esrim. Lacher Esrim Yom. Me'achshav Mea Yom. Mahu. In the Mishnah, he didn't know when he was going to have a son. His wife is, I guess, pregnant, I would assume. But it could be born after 7 months, could be born 9 months. He doesn't know when the baby's going to be born. False labor, right? You don't know when. Over there, it made sense that he should start the Nazirus because there was no designated time for when the son is supposed to come. Comes when it wants to come. Over here, he does have it some designated times. He says, I'm going to be a Nazir after 20 days. That means, this is how people quit smoking or whatever. They say, after Purim, after Pesach. I just have to get in that last party or whatever. So in 20 days, I'm going to be a Nazir, he says. Then he says, I'm going to be a Nazir from now for 100 days. So we say that he starts the Nazirus now, gets in 20 days, the 100-day Nazirus. He starts the second Nazirus. He starts the 100-day Nazirus now. Gets in 20 days of it. doesn't shave his head, of course, but then he starts the Nazirus of 30 days, finishes that, shaves his head, and then he'll have enough time afterwards to the length of time that it takes for the hair to be considered grown wild, the para, right? Gadol para, the wild hair that he's supposed to grow. So that he can do in 30 days. He has 80 days, which should work perfectly. This is Rava's question. Does he do this? Mahu, what's the din? Even the Halein Meya, Shalman. Since he can't finish those 100 days in the first 20 days that he has to do this Nazirus, so like Highland, so therefore he shouldn't start it. Wait till he finishes. Wait till he finishes his 20-day, his 30-day Nazirus that takes place after 20 days, which means basically wait 50 days and do everything in its proper time. Do everything completely. Do the first one completely and do the second one completely. Given this like Gidl Sarla B'Sayf, Highland, or maybe why do you have to do that? Let him start this, interrupt it, shave his head, and then he'll have anyways extra time afterwards to grow the hair that'll be considered wild, and he'll complete the Nazirus then. Basically, he can calculate in. I think this is like a question for what's considered executive functioning. You know, how to get several things done at the same time. Can he get in the 100-day Nazirus in the 20? At least get it started in those 20 days. Time management. I think the real question is, he would like to be able to do a proper Nazirus, which means to shave his head and bring the sacrifices, which he can do. Either way he does this. Whether he does it the first Nazirus, the 30-day Nazirus first, and the 100-day Nazirus after, or he starts the 20 of the 100, then he does the 30, and then he does the 80. You can also get in the sacrifices and so you can get it in there as well. Gemara asks, why don't you ask the same question with Nazirus Mu'atas? With Nazirus Mu'atas means a minimal amount of Nazirus. Same question. He said, accepts on himself, I'm going to be a Nazir for 30 days. And that's going to start in 20 days. And he says, and I'm also going to be a Nazir, I'm going to start it now. So he could do 20 days of the Nazirus. He'll do 30 days of his other Nazirus. Then he'll complete the Nazirus for 10 days. The only problem is that he can't grow his hair then, because it's not considered, he would shave his head after the 30 days, which is now 50 days. He can't grow his hair. So what we would say is, okay, so don't shave your head. You'll just bring one set of sacrifices at the end of the whole thing. So the Gemara says, well, that we're asking one question inside another question. It goes like this. We're on top of page 14. If you want to say, this is like Imtim Talaima is Gemara's way of making a flow chart. If you want to follow this approach, then we have another question for you. If you want to follow that approach, then we don't have the question. That's like, right. Imtim Talaimar, there's actually an opinion that says that every time the Gemara says Imtim Talaimar, it means that that's the halacha. You ever see that?
So is this suggesting that he only needs one set of carbonate for 2 episodes of the 0?
Yeah, which seems to be like a bit the but we don't like that to happen, but if that's the only way. Imtim Tzalaiman Nazirus Mu'atas, given Nasar Yamhudias and Lay Salak Lay Hale Nasara. So if you say that it doesn't work, that he should not start the Nazirus because he's not going to be able to get in the full Nazirus afterwards to be able for his hair to grow. So then, then for sure it should work because by the 80 days is enough. So by the 100-day Nazirus, we have a question number 1. two Naziris of 30 days. One starts in 20 days and one could start now or start in 50 days. If you say that you just have to wait for the 50th day, because if you start it now, you're not going to get at the end in those 10 days of full growth of hair. So then if that's the case, then when it comes to the 100-day Naziris, then you could start it before, because you will be able to get in in the 80 days, you have already 30 days there. That's good. Or do we say that you don't do this? Or do we say that you always push it off to afterwards? Start everything later. If you say that for the 100-day ones, it does take effect, that you start the 100, it works like this: 20 of Naziris, 20 of the 100. Then you do a 30 of that other Naziris that's supposed to start in 20 days, do 30 days. And then you do 80 days at 10. Amar, so if that's the case, then what about the following case? Harini Nazar Lacher Chaf Yaim. Me'achshav Nazar Olam Mahu. I think we're starting to make things even more complicated. We think like we can interrupt the Naziris with another Naziris that's similar to it. There's 100-day Naziris, 30-day Naziris. We'll interrupt the 100-day Naziris with 30-day Naziris. You finish this and you start that. But let's say he accepts on himself to be a Nazir Olam. A Nazir Olam is the Nazir that's a Nazir forever. He's not allowed to go to, he's not like Shimshon. He's not allowed to go to a cemetery. But he is allowed to lighten up the hair every year, every 30 days. He's like Avshalom, right? He's allowed to lighten the hair. If he says that I'm going to be a Nazir Olam, should he start the Nazir Olam right away, interrupt the Nazir Olam with the 30-day Naziris, and then he won't be able to shave his head because he's a Nazir Olam? Does that start straight away? Well, you'd wait until the time when a Nazir Olam shaves his head, which was either every month or every year. There was different opinions there. And then you would shave his head, bring those sacrifices on that one, and then continue with the Nazir Olam. Now the question is, does the Nazir Olam, it's odd to interrupt the Nazir. When you have a Nazir, that's a certain amount of time, so I can finish it later. I start it, I finish it. But a Nazir Olam is like forever. So how do you interrupt something that's forever? There's also forever. Yeah, we're about to come on to the Nazir Shimshon in a moment. But first we're asking, could a Nazir Olam be interrupted? Or maybe we should say, it doesn't make sense to interrupt the Nazir Olam. Wait 20 days. Wait 20 days, do the regular Naziris of 30 days. When you're done with that, start the Nazir Olam and don't mix in another Naziris into the middle of the Nazir Olam. Mar says, Imtim Telaymar, does the Nazir Olam take effect during those 20 days? Imtim Telaymar Hacha Kivan Defshalit Shulei Chayla. Gemara throws in a curveball on us. It says, 1 second. There is a way out of this. You can be matineder. Maybe we should start the Nazir Olam. We don't know what's going to happen. Just start what you can. Maybe he's going to go and be matineder the other Naziris, and that will just go up. So why should he delay the Nazir Olam? He may be matir. He may go to a rabbi and annul the Naziris that he accepted. So don't postpone anything. So maybe in those cases, even though it's in Nazir Olam, which doesn't make sense that you interrupt the Nazir Olam to take another Naziris on, that doesn't make sense. But nevertheless, how do you know the other Naziris is going to take effect? Maybe he's going to annul it. So if that's the logic that we're going to use, so let's go to a next step. Amareini Nazir Shimshon Lacher Esrim Yaim Me'achshav Nazir Stam Mahu. Says, I'm going to be a Nazir Shimshon 20 days. Now I'm going to be a regular Nazir. So, we're here. Nazir Shimshon, he can never annul. That's the rule. Why? Because Shimshon was well, he never took on that. So how could he become a Nazir Shimshon? Yeah, but for some reason, a person is able to accept that himself. Nazir Shimshon. The question now is, the Gemara spells it out. Over here, he won't be able to annul the Nazir Shimshon. So do we say that we should start the other Naziris first? Now, 1 second. How's he going to get rid of this Naziris? Never be able to. I guess that's the Gemara's question. You'll never be able to finish that Naziris. Should you start the Naziris? The Nazir Shimshon is going to kick it in 20 days. Should you start it at all? That's what the Gemara is asking. Now the Gemara throws in. You wanted to ask something? We had a discussion before. If someone could say that he's going to be a Nazir Shimshon, remember that discussion? Because exactly the way you're saying, because it wasn't something that was vowed. It was something that came from his came from Shemayim, yeah. Came from the angel. Right. What does it say in your comments in the halacha? Does it say that a person can say that he's a Nazir Shimshon?
Automatically.
So he can accept. Yeah, it's actually the Mishnah said clearly. If he says Hareini Kishimshon, he becomes a Nazir Shimshon. So what was our discussion before? There's an opinion of Reb Shimon that says that a person cannot make himself as Nazir Shimshon because Shimshon never vowed. That's Reb Shimon's view. But the sage's view was that he can become a Nazir Shimshon. Good. So he can.
Cohen did something to impose it upon his son. He became bar mitzvah. His son called it. Had a base to come to another.
There was a Nazir Shimshon?
That's the thing, I don't know. I don't know exactly what it said. I don't even have the story. It doesn't.
You have a trophy. Okay. Now the Gemara asks a question which doesn't seem to be related at all to this. Amar K'Moshe b'Shiva ba'Adar Mai says, I want to be like Moshe on the 7th of Adar. Yeah. So Moshe Rabbeinu was born on the 7th of Adar and he passed away on the 7th of Adar. There's a discussion here of what exactly this person means to say. But it's possible that what he means to say is he wants to be, probably when Moshe passed away, people were so distraught that they accepted on themselves to be a Nazir. So he's basically saying that he's going to be a Nazir. What's the halacha? Is that considered that he's a Nazir? Now, how does this question come in here? We had a whole flow chart going on. If you say this, if you say that, I'm not sure how that comes in. Another interpretation over here, this Mefarish, the Rivan, says that I want to be like Moshe, that just like Moshe after he passed away, of course, he didn't drink wine. So he's going to be a Nazir. Just like Moshe doesn't drink wine. I don't know why this has to do with Moshe. I guess every person, I don't know. Straight minayo kadmaisa. The Gemara says, well, I think we can answer one of the questions here. Harini Nazir lacher eser miyayim someone says I'm going to be a Nazir after 20 days. I mean, now I'm going to be a Nazir for 100 days. That we say, you do the 20 days of the 100-day Naziris, you get that over with. At least you get that started. And then you do the 30 days, and then you do the 80 days to finish it off, and it's going to be fine. This is finishing the tasks that we have on our to-do list. You do a little bit at a time. You chip away at it to get things done. Okay. Nitma b'mei b'noi. Going back to the Mishnah. I don't know why my Gemara just looks like it's a continuation. I really would re-quote the Mishnah in a regular situation. Yeah, re-quote the Mishnah and then it would ask a new question. What's happening now is that if a person said that he's going to be a Nazir when he has a son, then he says, and I'm going to be a Nazir. So he has to start that second Nazirus right away because he didn't have a son yet. So he gets that started. And then he has a son. So he interrupts his first Nazirus, which was really his second Nazirus, which he started first. And then he goes back to the first Nazirus, which is the second Nazirus, and he brings one sacrifice at that. Well, what happens if in the middle of his interruption, he interrupts his interruption? You see, he started off being a Nazir for 30 days. And then he has a son. So he interrupts his Nazirus with a new Nazirus. Then he becomes Tameh in the Nazirus for his son. So do we say that interrupted his previous Nazirus, or does it only interrupt the interruption? Follow? You got what's happening? The answer, yeah, that's going to be a machlokes. Rabbi Yechon says you've interrupted everything, and you have to redo the first Nazirus as well. Rish Lakish says no, you were in the middle. It's like how you view these parentheses. Does it take over? Does it? How protective is this? Is the middle Nazirus? Does it protect you? Is it its own entity so that you don't have to restart the other one as well? Well, the Gemara explains. Rabbi Yochanan says that it interrupts even his own Nazirus, that first one that he started. It's one long Nazirus, and even that's true because at the end you only bring one sacrifice. Those are two separate Nazirs. I know at the end he brings one sacrifice. That's because he wasn't able to get his haircut in the middle, but that doesn't mean that it's one Naziris. Nitma b'mei tzarate. Let's say he's a Nazir, and then he gets tzaras. So, no, that's just the machlokes. What happens when he gets tzaras? I guess you put the Nazirus on hold until he gets purified, and then he goes back to the Nazirus. I'm not sure. Mitzvah, when he's completed his thing, he has to shave his head. So I think what happened is he's a Nazir, gets tzaras, waits 7 days and shaves his head. So he would have to go back to the Nazirus. I think, does it say over there what a Mitzvah does? Does he put all the days of his tzaras are like not count for the Nazirus? It suspends it. Yeah. They don't give you the discussion about tzaras. They just tell you what tzaras is.
He would have to restart the leadership.
No, he doesn't have to restart it. He continues it from afterwards. So he goes back to where he left off. So, but what happened over here is he becomes tamei while he's a mitzayra. Now, mitzayra is always tamei, but he becomes tamei to a corpse, which would affect if he would be a regular nazir, he would have to bring the sacrifice to shave his head and restart the naziris because he became tamei, bring a asham. But over here, he wasn't actually in the naziris itself. He was in the tzaras that was in between in the middle of the naziris. So Rabbi Yochanan, thank God, keeps his consistent with his opinion, or else this would be very confusing. Rabbi Yochanan says that it breaks everything, and Rish Lakish says it says no, it doesn't break it. It only became tamei during the tzaras. This was like a separate thing. Rabbi Yochanan says it interrupts, it breaks the whole naziris dab and naziris guy, because look, he was in the middle of the naziris. He became a mitzayra, but he's still in the middle of his naziris. Those are two separate things. Just like Rish Lakish said before, that the two naziris are two separate things. Yeah, so Rish Lakish, it's easy. At least, I don't know if the logic is the same, but at least it's consistent. So the words are the same. With Tricha, and I need both cases because the Itmar Bahach Kamaisif would only tell me about where he was a Nazir twice. And the second Nazir is interrupted his first Nazir, and he had to start it then. And then he becomes Tamei in the middle. So by he Amar Rabbi Yochanan Seiser, Shem Nazir Zachasi. I would say that that's one big Nazir. So Rabbi Yochanan says that he has to restart both of them because it became Tamei. It was all one big Nazir. Aval Bahaim and Maidal Rish Lakish. But over here, I would say maybe Rabbi Yochanan would agree to Rish Lakish that tzaras is not Naziris. So maybe he would say that the tzaras, he became tamei in the middle of the tzaras, but he wasn't a Nazir then. The Naziris was only on the sides before the tzaras and after the tzaras. Maybe over there we would say that he doesn't have to restart his Naziris. So therefore, it has to tell me the second case. The Nazir l'chad v'tzaras l'chad. I would have said that maybe he would agree to Rish Lakish. It has to tell me this case. B'yetmar bahan. If it would only say the second case of tzaras, then this is obvious. We would say exactly the opposite. I would say baham Rish Lakish. Over here, Rish Lakish says that it's two separate things, and you don't have to restart the nazirs because tzaras is separate. But aval bahach. But in the first case, where there was one big naziris, because he started with one naziris and then he interrupted with another naziris, would say that becoming tamei in middle maybe has to restart everything. Even Rish Lakish would agree to that. Maybe Rish Lakish would agree to Rabbi Yochanan. So Tzricha, we have to let us know that there's a machlekes in each of these cases. Each of them are consistent with their opinions. The next case is nitva b'yem gidl. By the way, machlekes Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish, the halacha is usually like Rabbi Yochanan. I don't know if that's the halacha, but that's the general rule. You could look in your thing what it says. Becomes tamei in the tzaras. What's the halacha? Which that is Rabbi Yochanan's view. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we don't have the laws of tzaras in Shulchan Aruch. That's one of the benefits of the Rambam over the Shulchan Aruch. That the Rambam has the laws, even that ones that aren't. So that's why. Okay.
Is it the Kitzer only the halacha that don't apply?
Kitzer would have the concise halachas that do apply.
Is it just like one opinion? Or?
Yeah, he'll sometimes tell you if there's another opinion, but he summarizes it. You appreciate what he does when you start to learn the Shulchan Aruch.
See Karbanis in the Shulchan Aruch?
No, you don't see Karbanis in the Shulchan Aruch. You don't see all of these laws of purity and all of that. Okay, there's the halachas of Nedarim. I don't know if there's anything about Nazir. There's a lot of Nadarim. Maybe included in Nadarim, there's something. Nitma b'im gidul sar. There's different commentaries on how this is interpreted. Some wild stories over here. Let's go for the wild one. Someone said he's going to be a Nazir for 30 days. This is Taishus. He's going to be a Nazir for 30 days. He counts 20 days. And then some bandits show up and shave his head by force. So now, the 30th day, 10 days later, that's not enough time to grow his hair. So he finishes his Nazirus. But then he has to wait to be able to do the whole process. He has to wait an extra 20 days to be able to let his hair grow. It should be considered that he's doing the process properly. That's not really part of his Nazirus. That's just these extensions that he's adding to be able to get the hair to grow. The Nazirus was already over. Is he allowed to drink wine during that time? No? He says yes? Okay, that's a different story. That's a different story. Although the shaving does not cause him to forfeit his previous days of Nazirship, he is nevertheless required to observe a period of 30 days that his hair can grow enough for shaving. Let's assume that he's not supposed to drink wine. Let's make that assumption. Okay, now, let's say he becomes impure during that time. That whole thing was all an extension. So does he have to now restart the whole Nazirus? Rav Amar Eina Seiser. Rav says that it doesn't interrupt the Nazirus. He was just growing his hair. But the Nazirus he completed already. Now he says like this, even according to Rabbi Yochanan, it says that it always interrupts the Nazir, it always breaks the Nazirus, and he has to start everything over. That was Rabbi Yochanan's view. That was when he was a Nazir, but here he's not a Nazir. So that's just the completion of something, of getting rid of of finishing off this old Nazirus. But this is just that extension that he needed for his hair to grow. But it's not. He's not actually a Nazir. Maybe according to Rav, we would hold that he's allowed to drink wine as well. If he becomes tummy, it doesn't break the Nazirus. Maybe he's allowed to drink wine. Shmuel Amar Seiser. Shmuel says no. It does break the Nazirus when it becomes tummy. And he says like this: Afil Reish Lakish Amar Ein Seiser. Even according to Reish Lakish, that says that, oh, this is something else, and it's always two separate things. It doesn't break the first Nazirus. But Hasim Shtein Nazirus, Hachachad Nazirus, this is all part of the same Nazirus. Clear. He only took on himself one Nazirus. He's just trying to get it over. Amar Rav Chisda. Chisda says, Hakal Maidim Shem Kiddush Sar B'dam Ein Lei Takana. Kiddush Sar B'dam is an expression that means that he brought the sacrifice and is getting ready to shave the head, which you do right after the blood is sprinkled, and he becomes tamei. So there's no solution for this. The Gemara says, "What do you mean there's no solution? Ali b'daman. Who are you? Who is this according to?" Yeah, there's a machlekes, like everything. If it's according to Rebbe Lezer, that says that the shaving of the head is so integral to the Nazirite. So then he's got to start over. Taich Malaysi Velister. He became tummy. He didn't complete it yet. He has to start over. He didn't shave the head. Ela Ali but the Rabbanan. But if you go according to the Rabbanan, the shaving of the head is not part of the Nazirite. It was already brought the sacrifice. It's already done. That's just what you do at the end. But that's not part of. So then, what's the problem? What do you mean? It's ein lei takani, has no solution. He wasn't a Nazir anymore. So either there's no such thing as no solution. Either he has to start over, or it wasn't a problem in the first place. Gemara says, we're actually talking about according to the Rabbanan. Let's say that it's not a problem in the first place. So my ain like takana, what does it mean? There's no solution. Ain like takana mitzvah giluach. There's no solution to fulfill the mitzvah of giluach. Of course, he could shave his head, but that's not the mitzvah of giluach. He just does it, but it's not the mitzvah was when he was still pure to do it. He does it, but it wasn't he does it betuma, shaves the head even though he's impure.
So according to the rabbi, he would be
Yeah. According to the rabbis, he could drink wine after he brings the sacrifice. Yeah. Once he brings the sacrifice, as opposed to Rabbi Eliezer that says he's still in middle until he shaves his head. Yeah, and that was what you quoted from the top. That was the rabbis. Yeah. Okay. Amar Rabbi Yosef bar Chanina. Rabbi Yosef bar Chanina tells us an interesting halacha. It says, Nazir shekala la yama. A Nazir that finished his 30 days. And he's supposed to be bringing the sacrifices. But he becomes tamei before he brings the sacrifices. So like all of them, he gets malchus. Yeah, we were talking yesterday about getting malchus. We were saying that he doesn't get malchus. Apparently he does get malchus. That was a mistake. He gets malchus. Over here. If he becomes tamei, he gets malchus. He gets tamei on purpose. He probably has to be warned. Don't become tamei, you're a nazir. Right.
before the sacrifice.
Yeah.
After the sacrifice.
Sacrifices is done. So here,
But it has to be an action on his part.
Yeah.
Get involved.
right.
So that's what you were asking.
Has to be made. Has to be an action. Has to be amazed. Yeah. He finished the sacrifice at the conclusion. So here we're saying that Taisus points out that he doesn't have to restart the count because he's become tamei, but he just has to be pure and then bring the sacrifices because he already finished the full count. Would that fit with? The Rabbanan. It definitely doesn't fit with Rabbi Eliezer, but the Rabbanan that said that the shaving of the head doesn't affect, that he's already done beforehand. Now we're learning that he's just about done, even before he brings the sacrifices, because he finished the day. It's just sacrifices. He's not till he brings the sacrifice. He's not supposed to become tamei. No, Rabbi Eliezer is a teacher of Rabbi Akiva.
Oh, sorry. That's where, because here it seems like he holds like part of it is all of it,
Uh-huh.
and then that's what Rabbi Akiva mentioned earlier, that it's like part of it is your shift for the whole thing.
Huh.
So I guess that's where Rabbi Akiva got it from.
I'm not sure if the comparison is perfect, because that was the different laws of the Nazir. That was in the laws of the Nazir itself. This has to do with the completing the Nazirus. How until where does it extend? Okay, so Rabbi Yosef bar Chanina tells us that if he becomes tamei, he still gets malchus, even though he completed the whole Nazirus. He just didn't do the sacrifices. But if he shaves his head or he drinks wine at that point, he doesn't get malchus. Where it says, what's going on over here? How do you get to divide that up like this? Rabbi Yosef bar Chanina is a Amira in Eretz Yisrael. I thought it was the son of Rabbi Chanina bar Chama, but Dr. Stein showed me on the chart that he's later. He's after Rabbi Yechonah. So how does he divide this up? So he says, well, Kol Yemei Hizira LaHashem. All the days of his becoming a Nazir, it adds in the word all. Kol Yemei L'Rabbis Yom Shalacher Malais Yom Shlifnei Malais. It's coming to include that all the days, coming to include even after he finished the Nazirus, he still has some extra days over there until he brings the sacrifice. supposed to do it right away. But if he didn't, he still gets still considered a violation that would give him malchus. The Hachi, the Gemara says, the same thing should apply to the haircut. All the days that he's a Nazir, it says he shouldn't shave his head. All the days, that would mean even after he's finished, before he brings the sacrifice. Same, exactly the same. I'll ask even more. By the drinking of the wine, it also has the word kol yimei, all the days. You're going to tell me that all the days is inclusive. It's including also the days after he's finished his 30 days. But he didn't bring the sacrifices, that he's going to get malchus. It says it by all the halachas. Shani Hachadam Rachmana on top of Tesvav. Here it's different. The Eberster says, Rachmana, the merciful one, says, the Tamei is right. Yeah. Okay. If he becomes Tamei, it says regarding Tumah, it says it becomes the Nazir becomes Tamei, and it uses the expression the head of the Nazir, the head of the Nazir becomes Tamei. We're talking about someone that his whole Nazirus is dependent on his head, which means that he hasn't shaven his head yet. Until he shaves his head, in this case, we're really referring to bringing the sacrifices. Until he brings the sacrifices, he is not allowed to become Tamei. Okay, so there's a special halacha. It's not from the Kol, it's from the Tamei Reish Nizrei. That there's an extension of the laws of Tumah that extend until he shaves his head. Meisvei, the Gemara has a question. Nazir Shkalayama, there's a brisa. It says that a Nazir, that he finished his Nazir's 30 days are up. Asa legaleach. He's not allowed to shave his head. Lishtis yayin, to drink wine. Olatam elamesim, and become tamei. Bim gilach, if he did shave his head. Shasi yayin, he did drink wine. Benitma lemesim, and he did become tamei. But he's a seifigas arbaim, he gets malchus. All three. Tiyufta, this is a strong question on Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Dr. Maya.
Yeah. So have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Your friend does not.